The election for 2024 for inflation, rising interest rates, and take-home pay are gonna be a really hot debate. Meaning is whoever's gonna win the next election has to debate on these current topics. As you have seen in my previous videos, currently they're going to pause rising the interest rates. Instead of raising the interest rates, they're going to most likely raise it either during November or December. They say they're going to be doing based on the results. And the results itself kind of doesn't really speak up for the whole equation, because currently gasoline's really high, you got unemployment really high, you got a lot of social problems, and you have a lot of prices and goods are still going up. Like for example, homes itself hasn't really dropped down to pre-pandemic levels, but the trend is showing that it's getting more and more expensive every year, but going around 2%, and wages are not matching with inflation. So looking at the data that is currently provided, most likely right now this is the whole entire next election. The winner of the next elections have to be able to address these problems. And the first problem we're going to address is during the past second quarter of this year, right now prices risen on average about 15.8% overall, which is a lot. And wages have trailed in behind, still lacking behind, but pretty close at 12.8% overall. This is going on throughout the United States, not just in like one single state or single city. That will be another video for another topic. Next, you gotta look at consumer inflation. Consumer inflation currently is around 3.7%. It's not the core PCE inflation, but this is the overall inflation. And mainly the Fed is looking at the core inflation. Now, it dropped down from a peak of 9.1%, but it's still pretty high at 3.7%. Hopefully it'll stay low. This doesn't also include wage inflation. Now, looking at the data over the decade, inflation really happened around 2020 and it skyrocketed from there, and now it's trying to be brought back down. But overall, the trend has been going up and down, and it's going to be a massive wealth transfer within the next few years. Now, going on to the other data that people are posting at was the NASDAQ data, where the S&P 500 or index funds in general are currently not as well risen as the past couple of years, which makes sense. Instead of all the fear factor, it didn't go up like 10% that a lot of people expect. It's around 5.2% to around 3.1% respectively. But overall, keep in mind, index funds are around the top 500 companies in the world. Companies always compete to become better. Now, what else? The next geopolitical debate that really needs to answer is understanding what the people are really looking for. So currently, what they're really looking for is how they can solve their current living expense, their living wages, and inflation. So if you look at goods and services, food itself, it's still not getting cheaper. You look at housing, a lot of people said there's going to be a housing crash or bust. Even I thought so too, but after looking more and more data, it doesn't make sense, because you look at the definition of supply and demand. Currently, supply is still stagnant and kind of going down a little bit, while demand has been artificially halted. But what happens to release a restriction? Then the demand's got to shoot straight up, then it's going to happen the same situation. So a market crash, or in this case a housing crash, very unlikely. For food and goods and services, for that to really go down, there's many other factors how to discuss, which cannot be covered in one video. For example, if you want food to be a lot cheaper, then the people producing the food have to reduce their costs, meaning you need water, electricity, then you need the people growing the food. And when the people grow the food, you have to transport the food. It's a whole entire logistical issue, which cannot be discussed in this one video. So, but in the general case, you should understand that for food costs to become cheaper, then they have to find ways to bring down food costs, meaning more manufacturing back at America, which this is beginning to happen. Starting around the Trump administration, now to the Biden administration that's pushing forward with the Inflation Act. There's goods and negatives, but looking at the positive side is more manufacturing is coming back. So we have manufacturing over here come back. Yes, labor itself is very expensive, because labor, no one wants to do those jobs. So what's going to come in? You look at technology such as AI, especially AI from Japan and Europe, especially Japan, because Japan, I'm not sure if a lot of people notice, they have a population problem where when their population is missing a lot of young workers, then you have a lot of people have a gap in the workforce. So they're using AI and technology to cover that. And since good trade relationships is with America, that technology is going to funnel through here and it's going to solve a lot of the problems. Good part is if you have a lot of manufacturing here, then you don't have to pay for tariffs. The transportation logistical issue will be a lot easier. So expect to see that improve over time. So looking towards the 2024 election is to solve currently the home economic conditions. I think that's the ones that mainly needs to be addressed, especially inflation. You look at housing is going to take for a long time because not enough housing, too expensive. Food, I see that one being solved in the next few years in America. If they really want to, just increase the supply. This is doable because America produces one of the most amount of food around the world. Then housing, transportation would be the one that needs to be solving within that category. If they can solve transportation, then you can get a lot of goods and services moving around and become a lot cheaper. And going down to number 4, manufacturing. Manufacturing is going to be huge, especially for companies like TSMC, Intel, besides all the political issues. But if you have a lot of manufacturing, then a lot of electronics and goods and services will become a lot cheaper in the future as long as they raise the supply. So that's it for this video. Make sure to click the subscribe button down below and a like button. And make sure to click the bell notification icon when I upload new videos, because there'll be a lot of interesting topics coming out pretty soon, especially whether or not they're going to raise the interest rate or not within November and December. And keep in mind, this is going to be similar back in 2008 when the housing crisis happened. A lot of new wealth was created after the economy recovered. And this is the case again for post-pandemic. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Have a nice day. I'll see you guys next time.